Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to take a deep look into one of the most dramatic moments of the ongoing war, a moment that not only shocked observers but also highlighted the sharp contrast between raw numbers and effective strategy. The story revolves around how Ukraine managed to turn Russia's massive offensive, made up of 180 drones and 120 tanks, into a firestorm, and the unexpected turn of events that followed. This episode tells us more than just who won or lost. It reflects the layers of strategy, preparation, technology, and sacrifice that shape the reality of modern warfare. By looking at it in terms of exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, the price, and the conclusion, we can better understand why this clash will be remembered as a pivotal moment. On the exterior, Russia's assault appeared to be overwhelming. A vast fleet of tanks rolled toward Ukrainian positions in what was meant to be a show of dominance. These tanks, supported by the swarm of drones flying overhead, created an image of unstoppable power. The sheer noise of tank engines and the sight of drones filling the skies were intended to break Ukrainian morale before the battle even began. Russia hoped that the exterior would intimidate both the defenders on the ground and those watching from afar. It was a stage set for a show of force, a display of how numbers can create the illusion of inevitability. Yet, in modern war, the exterior is not always the true measure of effectiveness, and Ukraine quickly proved that what looks powerful on the outside can be dismantled from within. The interior of this story reveals where the real difference was made. Ukraine had prepared silently, fortifying its defenses, placing artillery in strategic positions, and carefully mapping out the terrain. The short truth about the interior is that it was built on intelligence and coordination. Behind the scenes, Ukraine worked with advanced satellite systems, shared intelligence from allies, and local units trained specifically to counter drone swarms. The interior also consisted of morale, something that Russia's soldiers, many of whom were conscripts or poorly motivated fighters, lacked. On the Ukrainian side, soldiers knew they were defending their homes, their land, and their future. That interior strength was not visible at first, but it was the backbone of the resistance that turned the tide. Performance is where the contrast became undeniable. Russia launched wave after wave of drones, hoping to overwhelm Ukrainian air defense, but instead, Ukraine showcased remarkable adaptability. Anti-drone units used a mix of radar, electronic warfare, and direct fire to bring down the drones. Reports from the ground described skies littered with wreckage, as dozens of drones were intercepted before they could cause meaningful damage. On the ground, Russian tanks tried to push forward, but Ukraine had prepared ambush zones. Precision artillery and portable anti-tank systems turned those steel behemoths into smoking wrecks. The performance of Ukraine's military here was not just about technology but also about timing and patience. They waited until Russian units had moved far enough into vulnerable terrain, and then they unleashed devastating fire. Russia's performance, by contrast, was lackluster. Despite having numbers, their coordination broke down, units became isolated, and tanks that were meant to be offensive weapons ended up becoming easy targets. Safety features, while usually associated with civilian technology, do exist in military hardware. Russian tanks were designed with reactive armor, but those features proved insufficient against modern anti-tank missiles and precision artillery. Many of the tanks used were older models, lacking the kind of defensive upgrades that could make a real difference. On the drone side, safety features were almost non-existent. They were expendable by design, but that also meant that losing them in large numbers drained resources quickly. For Ukraine, safety was not built into machines but rather into systems of defense. Civilian shelters, rapid evacuation procedures, and the use of secure communications allowed them to limit casualties. In this sense, Ukraine's safety features were about protecting lives, while Russia's supposed safety features failed to protect equipment. Unique selling points decided the outcome more than anything else. Russia's selling point was numbers. They relied on the logic that 180 drones and 120 tanks would be too much for Ukraine to handle at once. But Ukraine's unique selling points were agility, precision, and intelligence. Using Western-supplied anti-tank missiles like Javelins and Laws, alongside domestically developed drones and artillery, they neutralized Russia's advantage. The integration of intelligence from NATO satellites gave Ukraine a real-time picture of the battlefield, allowing them to react faster than Russia expected. These unique selling points turned what looked like a disadvantage into an opportunity for Ukraine to not only survive but also inflict heavy losses. The price of this battle was staggering for Russia. Tanks worth millions of dollars each were destroyed in a matter of hours. Drones that had been assembled in large numbers were lost in swarms, often without achieving their objectives. For Russia, the financial price was measured in destroyed equipment, but the human price was even higher. Soldiers trapped in burning tanks or cut off from support suffered devastating casualties. Ukraine, while achieving a stunning victory, also paid its own price. Defending against such a massive offensive drained ammunition stocks, tested soldiers' endurance, and led to infrastructure damage in the areas under attack. Beyond the battlefield, the price extended into the international arena, with economic costs rising and fears of escalation growing. Every firestorm on the battlefield has ripple effects that touch families, economies, and global politics. In conclusion, this battle illustrates that modern warfare is not won by exterior appearances or overwhelming numbers alone. Ukraine demonstrated that careful planning, intelligence, and adaptability can turn even the largest offensive into a disaster for the aggressor. Russia's exterior of power hid an interior of weak coordination, poor morale, and outdated equipment. The performance of the two sides could not have been more different, with Ukraine excelling in precision while Russia faltered in brute force. Safety features, or their absence, shaped outcomes in critical ways. Unique selling points determined who held the real edge, and the price of the battle was measured in equipment, lives, and global consequences. This episode will be remembered not just as another clash in the war, but as proof that strategy and innovation can overturn even the most intimidating of assaults. What happened afterward continues to shape the direction of the conflict, and the world is watching closely to see how both sides adjust after such a defining moment.